How's Juan Soto?
He's fine. He'll go through a full progression tomorrow. He'll get some live at bats and stuff like that. We're just not running him out there in the field just to make sure, for a couple reasons, that we don't push it too hard. And he's got WBC coming up, and the way he was swinging the bat, we feel pretty good about how he's playing. It's just a guy like that you can't be too careful with.
So he's not going to play tomorrow either, then?
Against the A's, no.
Is there a little concern there then going to WBC, like innings-wise? If he's
I think they don't play a game until the 11th. They all leave after tomorrow will be their last game. They'll leave on Monday, so we'll see where we are with him. You mean a level of concern for the WBC?
just the fact that, I assume he would be playing 9 innings.
Yeah.
Something he's done.
Maybe mild. I think there is some time to, before their first game to, hopefully where he's 100%. And I'm not sure how they're going to handle at bats and so forth over there leading up to, but, maybe mildly.
And that's the thing you'll be in communication with them on, kind of?
Yep.
Engel looks like he might be getting close.
He's probably a little closer than Batten. Both of them are fairly close. Sometime in the next week, probably.
Does this affect the roster chances for Engel?
No. I mean, we had a lot of games left. We still got over 20 games left.
What have you seen of Baez this spring in terms of, I don't know, he's throwing a cutter?
Yeah, I mean, trying to get better. He's always had the downhill. They're working on a little bit explosiveness off the mound too. He's kind of more tall and fall than use the lower half. But it's tough for me to really get a gauge until I see him in games. We've only seen him in one, so it's really tough for me to evaluate him like maybe some other have here that have been around him for a while.
Suarez and Hader are going today, right?
Yep.
What do you make of what that duo could be at the back of your bullpen?
It's a nice duo. So it's a really nice one. It's probably, I don't know, maybe as good as any in baseball, right? So these are guys that we want to get to the finish line here. It's a little bit late start for them, even though they've been throwing bullpens and so forth. But I feel terrific about, those two at the back end. I feel good about our bullpen in general with good health.
You got a couple guys who get a lot of attention, deservedly so, Snell and Darvish. Your number 3 starter has got a lot of talent. What do you expect out of Blake this year?
He's come in, I think, with a little different focus about 162. He's had a history of getting off to some rough starts and then being about as good as anybody. I think there are a lot of reasons for him to be motivated this year to have a good year. And I think he probably started his process a little bit earlier, and certainly his mental process about, each game is going to be the same for him, whether it's game 1, whether it's game 25. So I expect him to get off to a little better start this year. And last year, obviously, there was some injury stuff that held him back too.
Have you diagnosed those slow starts, in any way?
No. I mean, it's just like you hate to fall into the trap that I'm a slow starter. So, even if hitters, I don't get off to good starts, well, you don't necessarily have to buy into that. If you do, then you are going to get into a little bit of a slow start. So I think you have to change how you're thinking about it.
Is there any idea yet of when he pitched in the Cactus League?
Who?
Blake?
Tomorrow.
Tehran, another good outing from him. One of the guys kind of vying for some spot on this roster.
Right.
You mentioned yesterday a little bit him working on some new things.
Yeah.
What exactly are those things that he's working on? 'Cause he
Well,
looked good last
he's
week.
kind of been, he's got that riding, lower slot plane that nowadays plays really well at the top of the zone. And I think he's going to get a lot more swings and misses. As you saw, he missed a couple times up top yesterday. That's what he's working on. Changing the eye level as opposed to being in one spot, mostly down in the zone. Sharp breaking ball, there's some carry to his fastball, but if he can elevate, especially when he's ahead in the count, I think he can get some swings and misses, and that's one of the things he and Ruben are working on.
When it comes to guys like Tehran or even like a David Dahl, guys who have track records, how much does that play a role in the decision to put them on a roster, and how do you balance that against what they show here?
It has to count because there's big league experience and success with both. David's been an all-star. Tehran's been. You look at some of his years, been terrific. It is very difficult to evaluate in spring training, and no matter what you say, and then there are spots that you have to, but it's really tough. So, there are a few more spots that are opening up potentially on our 26-man, and those are the spots you try to evaluate the most. You do the best you can with it, but you never really know because spring training can fool you. But that's where guys with track records probably they play it a little bit more because they've done it before at the big league level.
With Adam Engel getting close, kind of how would you size up then the battle for that right field for those 20 games, and then the one or two bench spots that might be available? Some of those guys have had pretty impressive springs so far.
Yeah, I mean, Dahl's the guy that's probably not surprised, but has done the best as far as swinging the bat. But Engel was brought in here for a reason too. I mean, he plays center field, he hits right-handed. He's got a lot of experience at the big league level, so I think that puts him right in the middle of this thing. And maybe the expectation when we signed him was that he would be on the team. So I'm not sure that's changed a whole lot.
You speak to the importance of getting production out of that right field spot for those first 20 games of the season. It is an eighth of the season, and you guys want to get to where you want to get to.
Right.
What is that level of importance there?
Yeah, we could match up there. We haven't had a ton of spots where we could match up, and that's one where we potentially could. So it's going to be, like you said, every game's important. Game in April is just as important down the stretch, but we'll do the best we can to try to maybe match up and get as much production out as we can before Fernando comes back.
With Joe, it might only be a couple starts, but is there any more importance for Blake to start well, given that you're down one of your...
Yeah, I think just as much maybe innings, because if you're shortening this thing and it's 5, you always feel like you need at least 2 guys that can get you to 7 innings. Now, maybe not the first couple starts, but you don't want to have those be 4 innings. So I think we're trying to build him up to where, we pushed him last year probably for the first time as far as pitches and innings. He probably went deeper into games, and I don't think that's changed in our outlook for him this year.
You have a lot of versatility among your regular infielders. Does that change how your bench might be composed? I mean, do you need to have one infielder, 2 outfielders? Or is it left, right that'll be the most important?
Yeah, I think it's all the above, but it not necessarily. When Carp can play a little bit of infield too. Dixon's right in the mix here. He plays outfield and infield too. So it doesn't necessarily have to be just an infielder that we're looking on the bench, because we do have an extra guy within our regular rotation.